Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to untangle a really important piece of Philippine family law, one that has a massive impact on Filipinos who are married to foreign nationals. We're talking about Article 26 of the Family Code.
So, let's start with a scenario. Imagine you're a Filipino married to a foreigner. The marriage doesn't work out. Your spouse goes back to their home country, gets a divorce, and is totally free to move on, even remarry. But what about you? Where does that leave you?
Well, under the old civil code, the situation was just deeply unfair. The law created this strange, one-sided reality. Your foreign ex-spouse, legally single, free as a bird. But you, the Filipino spouse, you were still legally married to them, stuck, unable to remarry. This really created a painful kind of legal limbo. It essentially left Filipino citizens stranded in a legal no-man's land.
Now, the root of this problem was something called Article 15 of the Civil Code, and what it basically said was that Filipino family laws follow Filipinos wherever they go. And since divorce wasn't a thing in the Philippines, a Filipino couldn't be considered divorced anywhere. That marital bond was seen as unbreakable, no matter what some foreign court decided.
But an injustice like that couldn't just be ignored forever. And in 1985, a landmark case called Van Dorn versus Ramillo really started to change the game.
The Supreme Court's approach here was honestly fascinating. They didn't say the Filipino spouse was divorced. Instead, they focused on the foreign ex-spouse. The court basically said, look, according to his own country's law, this guy is no longer her husband, so he can't come to the Philippines and act like he is. He couldn't claim any marital rights, like a share of her property. It was a really smart, practical first step toward fairness.
That kind of thinking from the court paved the way for a real change in the law itself. So in 1988, the new Family Code was introduced, and with it came Article 26, which was designed as a direct solution to this whole problem.
And here it is, the law itself. This is the second paragraph of Article 26, and it's the part that finally leveled the playing field. It's pretty clear. If a foreign spouse gets a valid divorce abroad that allows them to remarry, then the Filipino spouse also gets the capacity to remarry under Philippine law. Simple as that.
Okay, so let's break that down. For a Filipino to use this law, two really important things have to be true. First, the foreign spouse has to be the one to get the divorce. And second, their own country's law must actually allow them to remarry because of that divorce. You have to prove both of those things in court.
But of course, the law is never quite that simple. There are always tricky situations. And a big one came up in a 2005 case, Republic versus Obrador, which tested the limits of Article 26 with a brand new, complex question.
Right, this was the big question in the Obrador case. You have a couple, both Filipinos, they get married. Then, the wife moves to the U.S., becomes an American citizen, and then divorces her Filipino husband. So the question for the court was, does Article 26 still apply? Or is it only for people who were already a Filipino and a foreigner when they first got married?
And this is where the court got really smart. They didn't just look at the exact words of the law. They looked at the whole point of it. The entire reason Article 26 even exists is to fix that absurd, unfair situation where one person is single while the other is still technically married to them. To say no in this case would be to let that same absurdity continue.
And that led to the court's final, crystal clear ruling. The reckoning point, as they called it, isn't your citizenship when you got married, it's your citizenship at the time of the divorce. Because the wife was a foreign citizen when she got the divorce, Article 26 applied, and her Filipino ex-husband was finally free to remarry too.
Okay, so we get the law and we see how it's evolved. But what does this mean in the real world? How does it actually work? Because a foreign divorce isn't just automatically recognized in the Philippines. You have to go through a process. Let's look at what that takes.
So, it's a court process. The Filipino spouse has to file a petition and prove several key things. You need to show, 1, that the divorce actually happened. 2, you have to prove the foreign law that allowed for the divorce even exists. 3, if your ex was originally Filipino, you have to prove they became a citizen of another country. And finally, number 4, you have to show that the divorce allows your ex to remarry, hitting that key requirement of Article 26.
And this kind of leaves us with one last really important question. There's no doubt that Article 26 provides a just and necessary path to freedom. But the process itself, filing a court case, getting evidence from another country, proving foreign laws, that can be long, complicated, and really expensive. So while the law has opened a door, we have to ask, how easy is it for every Filipino to actually walk through it?